We shall we make a start?
Yes. Hang on. 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Okay, I'm not trying to rush you.
Just double checking what number. So this is number 5. Okay.
Right, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You were ready instantly.
Welcome to episode 5 of Chit Chat with Tim and Matt.
Yeah.
I am Tim.
And I'm Matt.
There we go.
We're your hosts.
We're the hosts with a substantial amount, but not as much as some other people.
Oh no, we're no Ricky Gervais show or Smodcast or Podcast Beyond.
None of those guys.
If you haven't listened to those shows, I'd turn this off. Go there.
Turn it off. Break the phone or whichever device you're listening to this on. Go and buy a fresh phone that hasn't been contaminated
with
our dribble, and start fresh.
Yeah.
Leave your family, get a new family. Leave your spouse. Divorce your children. Do all that.
Divorce your children. Is that
you
a
can
thing?
You can divorce your children.
Oh, interesting. I'll keep that one in the bank. We've got a 2-year-old who is naughty every day at the moment. Every day it's a battle, Tim. A battle of wills.
Define that. Is it naughty as in like, she's sort of like crying and stuff when you put her to nap, or is she like going out and murdering swans?
Yeah, it's that one.
It's that one.
It's the swans. No, she just
slender necks.
She's got this thing at the moment where she's very, very fucking contrary. So you'll say to her like, you could say to her something nice like, "Do you want some ice cream?" She'll be like, "No!" And you're like, "Oh, why are you shouting at me?" Like stuff like that. Standard sort of parenting stuff that dickhead parents who have been parents for a long time will be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, the worst is yet to come." Oh. And you're like, "Shut the fuck up. I'm not asking your opinion." There's something about being a parent that I'm trying to avoid really, like, with all of my energy. I avoid being one of those absolute cunt parents who's just like, "Oh, I've been there." It's like, no one's asking for your advice. Just shut up, right? And then the midwife got angry with me and left. Lauren had to give birth by herself.
So you're trying not to be one of them parents.
Yeah, I never want to be that guy who's like, a know-it-all. Just because I've got 2 kids. I mean, we've got 2 kids, but we haven't experienced it all, and I know that. And these other parents know that as well, but they're still happy to be like, "Oh, it's probably this." Anyways.
Look, okay.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
Little bit of sort of like news we found out this week, which I know you'd be interested, and people who are listening to our E3 podcast and whatnot. One of the games that you were most impressed with at E3, Matt, No Man's Sky, which was the space game, the procedurally generated space game.
The one that's forever.
Yeah. And I'd been hearing, like, obviously every time it's demoed, it's been roughly the same sort of demo. I mean, very impressive as far as like the scale is concerned. But there were a lot of people who were sort of worried that it was just a sort of pretty face with nothing really going on underneath the bonnet.
Yeah.
Like I know, Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games was sort of like saying that he just wasn't that excited for it because the last sort of 3 or 4 times it's been demoed, it's been the same sort of demo. There's no hint at anything else. A few people on Beyond, Mighty Sleever, was saying that he, wasn't that excited about it, just because he felt that we hadn't really been told what the game was about, really, apart from exploration.
Yeah.
Just
I guess it's one of those things where it could either be a game that you're immersed in for the rest of your life, or you play it for 20 minutes and think, "Oh, that's a novelty."
Yeah.
And then never pick it up again.
And so just after E3, they did a sort of like, just for the sort of like game journalists who were there and whatnot, they did a sort of closed behind the doors sort of like, because they've said that they really don't want to sort of like release all the details of everything and do all these videos and stuff, because they want a lot of stuff to be discovered by people on their own. Um, so they did this huge behind closed doors thing, and the embargo was lifted the other day, so people have been able to talk about it. Greg Miller said on the Kind of Funny Games cast the other day, if he had been shown that demo either at E3 or just before E3, that would have probably been his game of the show. And Marty Sleever said that this game lives up to every single bit of hype that it has surrounding it, and it lives up to every sort of thing that's been hinted at or every bit of speculation.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, they were shown behind closed doors all this stuff that there's a very sort of vague sort of story to it. Basically, you start the game off, you've got your basic shit. You start off on a random sort of like planet, and the sort of story is that there is there's this big mystery that there is something at the center of the universe, which is what everyone is sort of going to be trying to get to.
Is
So
it
you're
the sun?
that's at the center of a galaxy.
All right. Yep. All right, Stephen Hawkins. Ooh, galaxies.
So yeah, you start off with your crummy ship and very fuck all stuff basically, and then you are just given free reign to do what you want. And they were saying that some people, you can build your ship up to be like a huge massive sort of freight ship, and there's going to be this whole integral sort of currency system, like a financial market. So you can fly freight around, you can go to like one galaxy, mine all this sort of like, I don't know, blue gems or whatever, which which are very common in this galaxy and don't have a lot of value, and then fly from galaxy A to galaxy B and sell it there at a profit, or trade with other players for a profit and like make money and like literally sort of just have massive control over vast amounts of stock.
Oh, nice.
You can be like a bounty hunter. You can go and like just hunt other players, like trying to take all their sort of items and stuff that they've acquired and whatnot. Or you can just explore, just be an explorer, just try and find as many different plants, flora, fauna, animals, things like that. And yeah, it just sounds like it's just going to be absolutely incredible. And it sounds almost as well that it's going to be a game that sort of like an MMO or stuff. It's going to be getting constantly updated. So I think the game at launch is sounds like it's going to be amazing. Like all the stuff that has come out preview wise so far has said that it's just so polished. And I think it's still early next year, but they're expecting a beta to be announced at the end of the year. But yeah, it's going to be a game that sort of gets constantly updated. So whether it updates it with like new materials, new and like all the materials you're getting, you can build your ship up to be like a fighter pilot or a fighter sort of ship, or like I said, a freight ship, stuff like that. And yeah, it just sounds like it's so reassuring to hear that this game that and it's a very small team as well. I think the team that are making it, I think it's like Hello Games, who did the Joe Danger games. I think they're a team of like 13, 14 people. And I mean, they're obviously getting a lot of backing by Sony, but it just sounds like this game is just going to be every sort of sci-fi nerd's sort of like wet dream.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they could incorporate, like, you go to the planet and you can play Fallout 4 on this planet, and just make it the most massive game in the world that incorporates every other game ever made.
So yeah, it sounds like it's absolutely crazy. And like if you go around just destroying wildlife and killing wildlife, then almost sort of like a Grand Theft Auto thing, you get sort of like put on a sort of bounty list and stuff like that, which decreases when you leave that galaxy and go to another galaxy that you're sort of not known in.
Oh, that's cool.
It just sounds like the amount of stuff they're packing in, and and this is all stuff they're packing in on day one. Like a year after, it'll be so interesting to see what shape the game's in, like a year after launch.
Or it might go the way of Arkham Knight on PC.
Yeah.
Day of launch, it's just like, it's broken.
It's absolutely busted.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that sounds really good. It sounds very immersive, which is what games need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll be any good, because I'm a far more casual gamer than you. I get obsessed with like the odd game. So I wonder if it's going to be more aimed at people like you who will get like deep into a game, or people like me who might just like glance off it and be like, I just want to play for 20 minutes and then go and do something else.
Well, no, I think that's the thing. I think it's very much going after sort of like the Minecraft market. So it's gonna try and get casual and hardcore, which is what Minecraft is perfect for. Minecraft, you can just jump in, play 20 minutes, just dawdle around and do nothing, or you can sit there and spend the whole day gathering resources, like combining things, making new items, and just get lost in it. And from what I hear, it's very much going after the same sort of audience that Minecraft has gone after, and it will appeal to both casual and hardcore.
Nice.
Hmm.
Well played. What do you call it? Angry Dog? No.
Hello Games.
Hello Games.
Yeah, pretty sure it's Hello Games.
Yeah.
So yeah, very very exciting stuff.
Yeah, I was playing a computer game last night on the
Fuck off.
on the computer.
Yes.
Yeah, bit of Fallout 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Going back to the old school.
Got on back now. Is this because you're sort of like capturing audio or whatnot for your little Fallout?
No, fuck that. I'm cheating with that. I just get other people's YouTube videos and nick the audio from there. They've nicked it from
the
whatever
game
it's called, Black Isle or Interplay or whoever it was.
Yeah.
So why not share the steal?
Initially, when I did start watching your little Fallout animated thing, and
sounds condescending. Your little, your silly little project.
Your silly little pet project.
Yeah.
And the overseer was talking for a few seconds. I did think, where the fuck has Matt found this amazing voice actor to sort of just come around his gaff and record this shit? And then I realised, oh no, this is from the game.
I like that because I put in the credits at the end his name, the overseer voiced by da-da-da, and Terrence the Vault Dweller voiced by Matt Wilson. So eventually I'm going to be on a credit listing with like Ron Perlman. I'm a movie star in my own brain. No, it's good fun. But no, I just thought, because Fallout 2 is the only Fallout game that I've never finished, like 100%, like done, I thought I'd better do it. Thought it's time.
Oh, so you have actually completed like Tactics and won?
Oh no, I haven't finished Tactics, but that's not canon, Tim, so don't need to.
Is it not canon?
Some bits of it are. It's considered to be, certain elements of it are, but then they went too far with certain bits, like making it so that Deathclaws can all talk to each other, and
okay,
they become friends with the Brotherhood of Steel at the end and stuff. And I think the Fallout creators were a bit like, let's ignore that. I mean, I love Tactics, don't get me wrong. It takes so long to play it because it's very sort of like a game of inches. You're creeping a lot and having to save and restart quite a bit as well, just because it's like, oh, that little encounter went slightly wrong and I used more ammo than I wanted to.
Yeah. Now I can sympathise with you on this, because I've just started last week playing a game called Disgaea.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I used to have it years and years and years ago. It originally came out on the PS2, and I remember buying it from the Blockbusters in Ashford because it was getting amazing reviews. And it is a turn-based tactical strategy RPG. But it was getting so many good reviews and stuff because it sort of breaks the mold of it takes all the sort of like normal elements of the strategy RPG and just makes them sort of ridiculous. It's very self-referential. It's got this, it's a massive like anime sort of styling to it.
Yeah.
And it's just very over the top, very ridiculous, very very funny, and like just very irreverent to the whole genre that it's emulating. But the whole thing with the Disgaea games, they're made by a company called NIS or NIS, I think, is that they're designed for the gamer to find ways of like breaking the game.
Okay.
So it's all about like finding these little, because all your characters can get to like level 9,999 and end up doing like their weapons can end up doing damage in the hundreds of millions. Like it's ridiculous. It gets to the point where, and I've not really reached that point in the game yet, but in the last week and a couple of days, I've put 35 hours into it so far.
Amazing.
Because I did have it on the PS2, but I mean, this is the other thing. It is very, very, very fucking difficult. A very, very hard game.
Yeah.
And the age I was when I bought it, I must have been around about sort of like 14, something like that, and that age just wasn't familiar with that sort of game, and yeah, it just didn't click at all with me.
Yeah, no patience.
Yeah, and then
So-
it was when we moved in, or when I moved in with our friend Chris. Found out that he was a astronomical fan of Disgaea 1, and I remember him showing me, like, very early days on his PS2. I think his game file was in the couple of 100 hours thing, and he got to the point where he was just doing this insane amount of damage. And that's the thing, every game they've done 4 so far, and the 5th one is released on the PS4 at the end of the year, and each game is pretty much infinite.
Right.
You can replay the story mode in like New Game Plus again and again and again with, you know, more difficult enemies, da. But with like Disgaea 1, there's this thing called the item world, where you can go into every single item in the game. So like every sword, every potion, every whatever, you go into the item into the world of the item, and then it's like a randomly generated map. And each item has hundreds of levels in, and every time you get to a 10th level, you have the option of leaving the item, which then levels that item up.
Right.
And so
I'm not sure I'm following you. So you go inside an item.
Yeah, so you go to this person who runs the item world, and they say, what item do you want to go into? And you say, I want to go into this, level 1 broadsword. And so you're then transported to a top-down turn-based strategy map thing, and on each map there's a portal that takes you to the next layer down, and each item has hundreds of layers, and every time you get to a 10th layer, that levels the item up. So when you come out, so say you go into a sword, you go down 10 levels and then come out, the sword stats then go up.
Oh, I'm with you. Oh, that's so much better than just taking it to like a blacksmith and saying, make this better, and then 2 seconds later it is.
Yeah. It is. On the one hand, it is. On the other hand, it requires an insane amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I've done the item world once so far in my 35 hours of playing it, and I'm very near the end of the story. But because PlayStation have just had their Big in Japan, or they've got their Big in Japan sale on at the moment. So lots of like Japanese games have gone on sale on the store, and so I've downloaded Disgaea 1 and 2 on the PSP, which I play on my Vita, Disgaea 3 and 4, and Disgaea D2. Because kind of like Final Fantasy, all the games are completely separate stories. You don't really need to have played one to have played the other.
It's just similar sort of mechanics of how it works.
But Disgaea D2 is an actual straight-on sequel to the first Disgaea game. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to be doing with my summer.
So we're both playing rock hard games.
Yes.
That aren't gonna be over in a day.
Because that's how we roll.
Yeah, I do like a hard game because it's more satisfying when you finish it, but I do get frustrated sometimes. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was one of those kids, probably up until about the age of 12, and then sometimes even now, I will shout at the game that it's cheating and stuff. Like, quite often I'll shout at a game if it's frustrating. I'll be like, oh, for fuck's sake, da 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 da. But when I was a kid, I'd probably be like, it's cheating! The game is cheating! As if the game is sentient and it wants to win. It has a will behind it. Were you ever like that?
I never really suffered with rage. The only time that really stands out was the first Need for Speed Underground, which was an incredibly fun game, very good soundtrack, but yes, very, very quickly it got to the point, like every race you had to do without clipping any sort of part of the environment.
Okay.
Because if you did, then you were just fucked. There was no way you were catching up. which, you know, would be fine if you're on a racetrack, but Need for Speed Underground is all street racing, so you're having to negotiate like street lamps, other traffic, like just so many little bits and bobs. And you'd be doing like a 5-lap race, you'd get to like the fourth lap, you know, and then just accidentally clip something or spin out, and then you'd just be like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, yeah.
So difficult.
Makes you angry. I remember when I was playing through Castlevania 3, I kept like getting stuck on this same guy, and I was proper screaming at the TV like, for fuck's sake, this is bullshit. And Lauren said to me, why are you playing it? And I was like, 'cause it's fun. It's like, I'm having a good time. Angry as fuck though. Yeah. So that's that. Oh, one more thing about Fallout.
No.
No, you're done with Fallout. We're moving on.
No, one more thing about Fallout.
Yeah, I got very angry with some YouTube commenters
Okay.
who were saying,
They're normally such a nice group of people.
oh yeah, I mean, people on the internet tend to be pretty reasonable,
Pretty
tend to-
level-headed.
yeah, have all the facts and are just very polite and sort of accommodating. No, YouTube commenters on the place I took the Fallout talking head dialogue bits from, commenting on it saying like, oh, I tried to play Fallout 1 and 2, but they were too shit. Oh, this, that, and the other. I'm 14 years old, and I've tried playing this, and it's bollocks. Games back in the day were rubbish, and da da da. I was so enraged. I was like, do you not understand the sort of natural evolution of things? Of course, it's not going to stand up like graphically, or
Yeah, visually, yeah.
yeah, or even the speed of it isn't going to be quite as good. But it's what spawned Fallout 3, which you're professing to love. So,
Yeah.
I mean, did you think they started with Fallout 3? Is that it? You think let's call it Fallout? Wait, hang on. What about we pop a number on the end? Yeah, just an arbitrary number, that'll be fine. No, there were games before it that paved the way, and they're brilliant, so shut up. I'm in a mood today.
Yeah, it does sound like there is a bit of sand in that sweet little vagina of yours.
I don't know why. I think it's because I'm tired. Stayed up too late playing Fallout. Woken up angry, raging. Yeah. Anyway, let's be happy from here.
Let's be well. I thought we could do the next bit of our retrospective,
Yeah.
the Tim and Matt retrospective.
Yeah. Tim and Matt's journey through the past.
The next section, which I thought we got to sort of chronologically, which I just sort of wanted to talk about, was just hanging out at yours.
Yeah, we did do a lot of that.
Now, I'm not including the White Widow incident in this,
No.
so I thought we could include that, like, with sort of like Justine's party, I thought.
Yeah, I'd say.
Because that seems to go hand in hand a bit with the old Green Days.
The two Green Days.
So yeah, just sort of like initially just talking, just a bit of a retrospective about, because yours was the main hub.
Yeah, at that time.
Yeah, because you know you lived very near the school. And I, at the point where we'd become fairly sort of good friends, I was just going into my second year of sixth form, and you were just starting your first year.
Yeah.
And I said to you, Matt, you don't need to go to school anymore.
And I said, well, this guy's older than me. He knows more than me. He's basically my dad at this point. Okay, Dad.
So, and I think this is where our friendship did really sort of like get its strength from, like this sort of first year, because it was spent. I think we both found out. I think one of the main things that I think we must have first found out, obviously, other than liking X-Men, you know, Marvel, Dragon Ball, that sort of thing. I think the main thing was finding out we both had a love for Sam Raimi's holy trilogy of films, The Evil Dead.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think we spent quite a lot of that year going to yours and just trying to find, obviously watch The Evil Dead, 1, 2 and 3 as we did. I vividly remember buying my first 18 DVDs underage from the Woolworths, which was the Hellraiser box set.
Yeah.
And then watching them, and then I think we just spent so much time just trying to find obscure, weird horror films.
Yeah, it's funny because looking back, what we at the time, obviously, because we had nothing guiding us, we weren't online every day or anything
Yeah.
looking at stuff. We were just
Oh
finding
well, yeah,
this
because
shit.
this was back in the day where if you wanted to go online, you'd have to turn your computer on half an hour before you wanted to actually use it.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have internet on our phones or any handheld devices that had access to the internet on, or any consoles that had access to the internet. Like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nowadays, you just type in films like The Evil Dead into
Yeah.
Google and you've got your answer. But we were sort of scouring like Blockbuster, and I'd quite often go into charity shops and stuff and just find old, weird-looking VHSs and stuff. And looking back, some of the stuff we found, I mean, some of it's really obscure, but a lot of it was like stuff that at the time it seemed like, have you heard of this? This is so weird, but it turns out it's actually a really famous, really popular franchise sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like Hellraiser, we'd heard of it sort of thing, but it was never never one that we'd sort of watched together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what our days became. Our days became you'd get off the bus at school.
Yeah.
I'd tend to meet you at school, I think, and then we'd just walk
I
straight
think
past our lessons back to my house.
Yeah, I think you'd either normally meet me in school, or you'd wait out just outside of school, and then
Yeah.
I'd just walk straight to you and meet you, and I know it just sounds. I don't know. I imagine someone listening, it's just like, well, you just watch films, but it was so much more than that. Because I mean, like, coming to your house was sort of like going into like almost like sort of like a Forbidden Planet kind of thing. It's like a secondhand Forbidden Planet, because it was just like you had your bedroom, which you had like quite a bit of your stuff in, like videos and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then but the attic, your attic.
Yeah, my secret space.
Yeah, where you'd previously filleted Caleb.
Whilst texting you. Like,
That
look what I said to him, Caleb.
that was just the hub.
Yeah.
That was like the heart of, I think, sort of like our friendship thing, because we would just go up there and like I just vividly remember, like, we basically used to live on Pringles and Diet Coke.
Yeah.
And cereal.
Oh yes.
Pringles, Diet Coke, cereal,
and cigarettes.
Yeah, we hadn't really started drinking coffee at this point, had we?
No, I think coffee. I mean, I've always drunk coffee, but it only really became a problem when we moved in together. That's when I was suddenly like, I'm not sleeping.
But yeah, and like that room, I mean, just such a fucking glorious room.
Yeah, I did try and fill it with as much sort of, if it was geeky, I'd try and stuff it in my loft.
Oh yeah, well it was just full of your Warhammer, your comics. You had that sort of like very old like sort of sofa which we used to just sit on, and and the other thing that used to go on this room quite often, as we both found out that each other liked, was a lot of Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And like, not just like, we're not just saying like, oh, we just played Street Fighter 2. We sort of tried to find every sort of version of Street Fighter, every spin-off, like Street Fighter Alpha, all the Marvel versus Capcom, Capcom versus X-Men, X-Men versus Street Fighter, like every single sort of spin-off we could find, and we would just sit there for hours, just hours and hours, just taking turns, just choosing characters.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just so much fun.
And like, that's something that carried on. That never stopped.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking the other day, when I was like, just sort of trying to remember the bits and bobs. Like, I initially thought like, we haven't sat down and played like a fighter in ages. But we did play one. We played I bought the Injustice Gods Among Us round, didn't I? At yours and Lauren's old place.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
we played that for a fair old knob.
Yeah, last time you came down, it was just Dark Souls.
Yeah.
But the time before that, it was Injustice. And there was a little bit of Dark Souls then as well, as I recall.
There was.
That was where your sort of addiction had just started to take root. Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a lot of. I mean, for me, that was weekdays. Weekdays, we'd spend a lot of time, like, skipping school.
Yeah.
To go and just be nerds basically, playing computer games, watching old horror movies and any old movie really. Um, and then weekends, it slowly started over time to turn into we'd meet at Manorfield at your mum's house. Although I don't know if that was yet, thinking about it.
I don't know if that was. Well, I would have definitely been living there.
Oh yeah, you for sure living there, because
Yeah.
there was the first time I ever went to. I can remember the first time I went to your mum's house and the first time I went to your dad's house. The first time I went to your mum's house, Duncan Skilton drove us, and we were all in sixth form. You were in second year, I was in first year, and you said, "Oh, we're going back to mine." I think you wanted to go in and grab Freddy versus Jason. You had it on
Possibly.
video or something, and you wanted to lend it to someone.
I bought it for my mum for her birthday.
Did she love it?
Well, this was the thing. This was the weird thing. We'd gone to see it at the cinema together.
You and your mum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, she'd never seen Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, none of that.
Mm.
She just heard that it was meant to be sort of quite funny,
Yeah.
but obviously like very violent and whatnot, but very quite funny. So we went and saw it at the cinema together, and yeah, we were both laughing, both really liked it. Her birthday then rolled around in February. I bought her it on VHS, and I can't remember if it was the present or what I wrote in the card, and I can't remember what I wrote in the card. But she just started crying,
With
and
joy.
not in a like
With joy, presumably.
in a genuinely I'm hurt sort of thing.
Oh my
I
god.
just remember being like, I vividly remember not knowing what I'd done wrong. So I thought this was like a nice
What an
present
ungrateful
of a
woman, eh?
memory we shared together, and yeah. So
I wonder what you wrote in the card.
I can't remember.
Because
I
I
don't
do
know if
know on your 21st, I think it was your 21st birthday, me, a bunch of people, but I remember I was there, you were there, and your mum was there. You were sat next to your mum on a sofa at the Eight Bells, and you turned to me and went, "Matt," and I was like, "Yeah." And you go, "21 years ago today, I split my first bitch." And then turned, gazed into your mother's eyes, and she was cool with it. Your mum's very sort of liberal and open-minded and finds things funny. You say things in front of your parents.
Loves incest.
Yeah, just loves it. But yeah, the things you say to your parents are the sort of things that would make other people be like, "Oh my god, Tim's about to be disowned." But I mean, your mum tends to be fine with it. Your dad's alright as well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I like him, he's fine. But definitely your mum, I remember being very shocked at how open your mum is with things and whatnot, because it's just the polar opposite of my mum. Who would be, if I said that, I'd get pulled out of that pub by my ear.
I'm just imagining you at a nice like family meal when you're 21 years old, saying, "Tim, 21 years ago I split my first bitch," and then just looking at Pam, and Pam just hitting the fucking roof.
Yeah, the fucking fist comes out of nowhere, my dad punches me in the back of the head. I'm out of the family, living on the streets, having to suck dick for food.
Your dad has like completely misconstrued the situation though, and thinks you are talking about like when you were like 1 raping your mum. He doesn't get the joke. He just takes it as you forced yourself on my woman.
He's old fashioned, so he's also angry at her. Like, you must have been giving him signals.
Across the dinner table.
Definitely enough about my parents for this episode. No, yeah, so we went, you said, "I'm going back to my house." Duncan Skilton was going to drive you. And you said to me, "Do you want to come?" And I thought to myself, well, I'm busting for a piss, but I would like to see where Tim lives. That would be interesting. You know, get a little map going, figure out where I was going to be sort of watching you and stuff. Nothing creepy. So we all bundled in the car, we went there. You know, it's a 20-minute drive, isn't it? From the school to your mum's house. So I was like, oh, I'd need a piss, but it's going to be alright. We got there, and your mum was in the bath. She'd just gotten home and just gotten into the bath. And I was like, oh, where's your toilet? And you said to me, you can't use the toilet because there's only one toilet in this house and my mum's
That's
using
true.
the bath. And I was like, I'm going to wet myself. You don't understand. I said, can I just piss in your garden? And you were like, well, it's all patio. There's no garden per se. It's all patio and pebbles and stuff. So I was like, I went out there thinking I can deal with that, and I was like, no, I can't, because all of the houses are looking down on this garden. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very,
There's
very
no
small
cover.
garden.
So I just had to hold it, and it was probably the closest I've ever been to actually like wetting myself on a journey or anything, because I was just so desperate. The first time I went to your dad's, similar, piss is involved. I stepped through the door, you let me, and I think George drove me, weirdly. We'll get to that later, but and your dog Chucky, who sometimes you can hear him barking in the background of this podcast, he ran at me and pissed all over the place, pissed all over George's shoes. And I remember you just saying, "Oh, he likes you," and then we all went up to your room. And that was my experience of the first time I went into your dad's house.
That's quite a lot of people's first experience. Like our friend, I think both of our friends, the two Bens. I vividly remember telling both of them on separate occasions, first time they met Chucky, don't stroke him, he'll just piss on you.
Yeah.
And he did.
It was what was that about? Is it just like a defense thing, or is it a happy to see you thing?
I think it is I think it is a happy thing, because he'd always roll on his back, and I think it was like a happy thing, and just not having a lot of control over his little bladder.
Yeah. He's a bit like Dom. No, I'm joking. Yeah. Sorry,
also,
I took us on a tangent there.
Also, your attic area was also home to a very impressive collection of toys.
Yeah, because I never throw anything away.
Like a hoarder.
It's sort of like a hoarder, yeah. It's Lauren's biggest complaint, I think, about me is the fact that she always says if I see space in the house, I'm like, what can I fill that with? I know, I'll buy one of these, or I'll get that down from the loft and just have that there. So yeah, toys.
Yeah, wonderful toys. And that was the last place that I ever actually played
With toys.
with toys.
And this, bear in mind everyone, this is when he's 18? 17, 18?
Well, this would have actually, I think this was nearer the end of the sort of like period of time where we used to be around your mum and dad's all the time. I mean, this was when you were working full time at Woolworths.
Yeah.
So I think this is skipping forward like a couple of years, possibly even after George.
Oh, so
But anyway,
you might have been in your early 20s.
But I mean, yeah. So yeah, this was possibly early 20s.
Is this the time?
Because like we've, well, yeah, because we both had a massive mutual love for Mighty Max. Like we both absolutely love them. I unfortunately didn't have any of my Mighty Max anymore, and I think we must have just been chatting about it because I'd known that you'd liked it for ages because you had all the DVDs and whatnot.
Yeah. Bootlegs
off old back when you could buy them off eBay.
Yeah, what are you gonna do, policeman?
And yeah, so we were like, you were like, I've got all my Mighty Max upstairs, and you had fucking tons of Mighty Max. And so we went upstairs and we were just getting, pulled all the toy boxes out of that little back area, and just on the sort of like little glass table that was next to the TV, we just put all these Mighty Max on there. Like, just tons of them, and like, set them up, open them up and stuff, and we were looking at them and we're like, yeah, this is fucking cool, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the next morning you had to go to work for like a couple of hours or something.
Yeah. Probably
you were
about
like
4 hours. It was probably a 4-hour shift.
but you were like, you can just, because you had like the next couple of days off as well or whatever, so you like, you can stay here and just chill out, and then I'll be back, and we'll carry on this debauched life we lead.
This wild lifestyle.
And I remember you left for work, and I must have been left playing Resident Evil or something on the PS1 or PS2, and I kept glancing over at the Mighty Max, and they just kept, like, Max's little eyes were just calling to me.
Play with us.
And so yeah, in the end I just when, there's no one here.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be ashamed about.
No, no one will ever find out. You'll never tell this story on a podcast.
So I just went and sat down and like properly played. Like properly just full on
Like doing the voices.
Moving all the shit around.
Yeah, slamming them together to make them fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the last time I actually played, was in that attic as a young adult.
Just an adult. Not a young adult. Yeah, I do remember coming back from that shift at work, and like you'd finished your playtime at that point.
I'd moved on to nap time by then.
Yeah, you'd had your snack, and you
Your
were
parents
fast
come
asleep.
home and like just found me sort of like drooped over, and they just sort of like lifted me up and put me in the little pen in the living room.
But I do remember I like sat down, and I think we'd put all the Mighty Max away, hadn't we, that night? And then when I came back, they were out again, and I was like, "Oh, you having another look?" You were
Something's
like,
gone on here.
You were like, "I've been playing with them." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine, I guess." Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm sure they appreciated it. So, because I mean, if Toy Story's real, those toys have been weeping for years at that point.
Yeah.
And like, they got to finally play with someone again. They were so happy.
If Jim Henson's The Christmas Toy is real, I committed mass genocide then.
Yeah, for sure.
As an adult touching toys, they're all now dead.
I dug a big ditch out the back and just rolled them down into it. I've still got all of them.
I know.
Yeah, they're all still up there. I've to the point where I now live with my wife and 2 children, and last year I converted our old dirty loft space into an actual like equivalent. It's basically the same as my old loft. Yeah, it's good fun. I like lofts. Don't know
Lofts
why.
are good. Lofts
I
are
think
good.
I'd have done well if I was like a Jewish person in 1940s Germany. I think I'd have been all right.
You'd have had a head start.
Yeah. I'd have been, get in the loft. I'm already up there. Don't worry. Right up here.
The other thing, which I think we would be remiss to not mention when just talking about hanging out at the Wilson household. Well, the other couple of things. Obviously, we mentioned we watched a lot of horror films. We did also watch a lot of cartoons.
Oh yes.
And there seemed to be a phase. Like I said, this was during the age when you could just buy copied DVDs off eBay.
Yeah.
So I mean, you bought a load. You had like Ghostbusters, Mighty Max. I'd bought Thundercats, and these were all seasons that were like 150 odd episodes long. Like these were big seasons of stuff. And it was also a time where a lot of them just seemed to be getting randomly released on DVD, like to sort of no real fanfare. I mean, that was back when it was like really fun and exciting to go into HMV, because like you'd go in every couple of months, and there would be a whole new range of like random 80s, sort of TV cartoons that were released. We bought like Visionaries, we bought loads of He-Man.
Oh yes.
So much stuff, and like it was so much fun. I mean, that's what I really loved. It was so much fun watching them, with you and mainly with our other friend Simon. I remember he used to like watching the He-Man stuff with us, and just watching it as adults and still loving it, but absolutely creasing up, especially with He-Man.
Yeah.
Just absolutely creasing up in hysterics at how sort of cheesy and hammy so much of it was.
Yeah,
But still so good. Like, still had so much charm about it.
The little things like little bits of dialogue where you're like, that doesn't aid the story at all. Someone somewhere has said, pop this in, and it makes no sense, and it's just hilarious. It's literally for one day, like, some idiot teenagers are going to be watching this and like cracking up over it. Yeah.
But yeah, like it was just again like tied in with like horror movies and stuff. It was just so and we would stay up till God knows what fucking time in the morning just watching cartoons and horror movies, or playing Street Fighter, or playing a little game on the GameCube called Mario Party 4.
Yeah.
Was it 4?
It was 4.
It was 4.
That was our jam.
That was our jam. For people that haven't played the Mario Party games, They are sort of like, big board games, sort of non-linear board games, I think you could say, because there are lots of different branching paths and whatnot. But the whole fun thing about them was that they incorporated loads of like really fun mini games into the whole sort of like experience. So when you're playing it multiplayer, like we'd play it with four players.
Mm.
And what was really fun was that even if you were winning, because the whole point was it must have been getting stars, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had to end the game with the most amount of stars.
Yeah, and then right at the end there would be all these random things that would happen. Like even if you were ahead by 50 stars, all these random things would happen where, like a player would get awarded for the most times they pressed the A button or something and be given like 100 stars or something, ridiculous stuff like that. So it was fun because it was just chaotic. There was no real, apart from the mini games themselves, there was no skilled way you could actually win the game.
No, because it was all based on dice rolls and where you landed. It was a true board game.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mario Party 9 on the Wii?
I probably. I haven't played one for ages.
We bought it because me and Lauren got really into them a little while ago.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we were trying to find games that she'd like to play with me. Trying to salvage that marriage. So I bought an old copy of, because I didn't own it, it was always your copy we played, so I bought Mario Party 4 and we loved it, and played it on the Wii with the old GameCube controllers.
Yeah.
And then we just started buying them up, like the ones from 4 upwards, and they lost it. They lost it, so they cracked the code with 4. 5 was decent enough, but
5 was 5 the first one on the Wii.
No, 5 was the last one on the GameCube.
Okay.
Where
I must have missed 5. I played the first one on the Wii, which was the one that we played at Chris's.
That one had some of the old magic back, but I
Yeah.
think that was due to we had a new group of friends at that point, didn't we? We
Yeah.
had different people sort of in our circle. Some the same, obviously. We weren't just like, well, we're done with these people now. But like, we didn't know Chris when we were first playing these games, so it was fun to play with him. And I don't think Dom had ever sat down to play with us, so
Yeah, I don't think he had
so
because
suddenly he was playing them as well.
He wasn't overly gracious about losing. I felt
That's an understatement. He's so angry. I've never seen anyone so pissed because of randomly generated like dice lost in the game.
So you bought carried on buying the games.
Yeah, and the first one on the Wii was alright. They'd recaptured some of that magic, but then they've completely lost it now. They've gone off the rails because it's more on the rails, ironically.
Yeah.
You go around, you each roll, how do I explain it, Tim? What they've done is, rather than it being like a traditional board game where you go around this board, and the board, as you said, used to fork off and you could choose different directions and stuff.
Yeah.
You're now all on this one little cart, and you.
I have seen this.
Yeah.
I've not played it. I saw a couple of years ago the Two Best Friends team did a big 4-player, and it was like a 2-hour-long video. And I sat and watched the whole thing. But I do remember watching it and thinking like, the mini games looked fine.
Yeah, they were
But
fine.
the board itself, I was just like, that just looks so dull.
Yeah, it's so boring because it's like there's none of that. The competitiveness is gone from it. It's like, well, you can sort of see, well, it's going to be my turn next, so I'm obviously going to land close to here, and all of these people are coming with me. Oh, it's just bollocks. I was just like, why have they done that? If you've got a perfect game going, why suddenly go like, let's change it up a bit, Nintendo? I'm not being angry anymore, Tim. We're having a happy podcast now. But yeah, they've spoiled it. I don't know what the next one, because the new one's coming out soon. But
the last one was on the 3DS.
Oh, really?
And I know it released to very mediocre to poor reviews.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was the last one released.
Well, the thing is, there's not a lot you can do with a game like that except for change the mini games, and
Yeah.
you know, if you try and change the board part of it, it obviously doesn't work. And if you just change the mini games, people are just going to be like, well, unless they're the funnest mini games ever, I've done this before, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a shame. Rest in peace, Mario.
Rest in peace, Mario, indeed.
uh,
Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers that early. You know, we very much had realised at this point that we were both massively into the same stuff, and not just like a little bit. Like we were both like, "Oh, do you do you fucking remember Thundercats?" I fucking love Thundercats. I was like, "Yeah, I fucking love Thundercats too. I'd fuck a Thundercat. I fucked a fucking woman that I tattooed to look like Chitari. I fucking watched that video and jerked off to it." Like it was that sort of love.
Yeah, we did find. I remember you made the comment once that it's strange because we'd reminisce about things and it was as if we were both there, but we weren't.
Yeah.
We just had such similar sort of childhoods for
Yeah,
what
it's
we
like, oh,
liked.
do you remember? Yeah, you remember this? Yeah.
Yeah, remember the episode when this happened? It's like, yeah, that was awesome. It's like all of this stuff where it's like, but I was on the other side of the country at this point.
Mm.
You know, I was miles away in Norwich.
Bumgay.
Well, Norwich. Let's Suffolk. Let's say Suffolk or Norfolk.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that first year. I mean, obviously we were still going to, like I said, we were still going to house parties and stuff at this point. You know, and we'll get on to a little bit of that because you know, we went to quite a lot of house parties, but I think there was apart from the big one that we talked about, you know, Joda's one last week.
Yeah.
I think the other ones that stand out very fondly were Justine's house parties.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think we'll have that, you know, chat a little bit about that.
There is one more standout thing from our days in my house while we were meant to be at school, and that's when I threw a spider on you.
That wasn't really a standout moment, was it?
It was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. Have you ever seen a man sort of propellering round and spray shitting? Because that's what it was like.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things that, I mean, I'm petrified of spiders, and I use, you know, if there was a stronger word than petrified that I could use, I would use it. But you know, I've said this to Vicky because she's caught the odd spider in the house, and like she will come into the, you know, she'll like sort of like be, you know, walking past the bedroom door with it under a glass or whatever, saying like, "Oh, do you want to see it? Like, you know, do you want me to come in?" And I will be shouting at her that if she comes in, I will fist fuck her through the glass into the skull and rape her to fucking death. Because
that's the equivalent as far as you're concerned.
If anyone comes near with the spider, I will fucking kill them.
Yeah, you don't like them. You're not a fan.
Well, I walked out of work once because back at Pizza Express, one of the chefs that I used to work with, and we used to get massive spiders there, and he would just pick them up with his hand, and just come over to me and sort of like be trying to put it on me and stuff. And like once I just lost it and just walked out.
Yeah.
Just went somewhere and like had a drink for an hour and then came back and was like, "Don't fucking do that again."
Never do that again.
I
mean, I don't like them, but you're what I'd call you're arachnophobic.
Yeah.
Like people say like, "Oh, I'm arachnophobic," and it's like
scared of Iraq.
It's like there's a difference between being like, "Oh, I don't like spiders," because no one does. I mean, I don't like flies either. I'm not necessarily afraid of flies, and they don't make me jump like a spider would, but I still don't want them on me.
Yeah.
But you're proper. It's like an actual fear, a phobia that sort of freezes you inside, sort of thing. So the funniest thing you can do.
So I'd gone upstairs to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've had fucking spiders, and I know that you're scared of spiders as well, because I like, you know, this was a very old sort of house in Tenterden, you know, which backed onto a play park, you know, and had a garden with a lot of trees and stuff. Inevitably, there are going to be spiders.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling your mum and dad last time I saw them about the time, and I think we were probably playing Mario Party. Me, you, and Simon were in your sort of dining room. And
is this when one ran out from under the TV or something?
Huge spider ran out from under the TV, all three of us jumped onto our respective chairs, screaming at each other to kill it.
Yeah.
And
Someone
none of us
kill it or
would.
kill me.
So I'd gone to the toilet, and I think it was you and were there a couple of girls? Was it like George and Steph, or
Possibly. I can't remember who else
was it possibly like was it Gemma?
I was just thinking that it might have been Gemma, because I
there were
might have
other
been
people
trying to
there.
impress her. Like, look what a coward Tim is.
So I'd gone up to the toilet, went to the toilet, came down, and I remember opening the door into your kitchen, and the people who were in there just looking at me, looking a bit uneasy. And I had a split second of sort of like, this is odd, where's Matt? And then all of a sudden this thing flies right past my face and just lands must have landed on the table.
Yeah, I missed. I was aiming for your face.
It just landed on the table in front of me. I just looked down, and it was this absolutely fucking massive spider. I shit myself, looked to my left, and you're standing there with this shit-eating grin on your face. And so I just turn around, go back upstairs to the bathroom, lock myself in there, and proceed to throw yours and your family's toiletries into the garden.
Yep. If it wasn't nailed down in that bathroom, it ended up on our patio.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm in the garden shouting up at the window, going like, "Please stop! I'm sorry. It won't happen again." It was awful. I mean, from my point of view, I went out into the garden, I think to have a cigarette or something, and I saw this giant spider, and I was like, oh, I bet I can catch that in a glass and then throw it at Tim because he doesn't like them. But I had no idea. Like, I knew you didn't like them, but I didn't know how much you didn't like them. I didn't know that there was like gonna be a reaction that's like, well, if that's the way we're doing this, I'm gonna turn your house inside out.
Didn't know there was going to be rage.
Yeah. And people had warned me as well. People who like had seen you react to spiders more than I had were saying to me like, "This isn't a good idea. It's not going to be funny."
You'd seen public service announcents on TV.
Yeah. If you know Tim, keep spiders away from him.
They used to do a bit at the end of G.I. Joe where it was sort of like, "Don't ever throw a spider at Tim." Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Oh. Yeah, but people were saying to me, like, he's not going to see the funny side, Matt. And I was like, no, we always do things like this, don't we? We're sort of wacky. We're like, this is like jackass. Yeah, we play pranks. No, it wasn't. You didn't see the funny side at all.
I didn't see the funny side. But it does remind me, we did used to do, one of the fucking things I remember you doing, whenever we used to stay around your house, we generally used to sleep in the living room, which is where your dad had his, like, big surround sound speakers wired in.
Yeah.
And so inevitably it's sort of like, and we used to do this at each other's houses to each other all the time, and I think you started it. I remember you doing this at your house vividly. You would like plug through like fucking Korn or Slipknot at like 6 a.m. at full volume,
Yeah.
and absolutely scare the shit out of us. Like waking up to just noise. Loud noises.
Really heavy sort of like drums and guitars and screaming and stuff. Then I'd go in there once again, shit-eating grin pasted all over my face, like, "Morning!" and just get scowled at, just like, oh, fuck off. Although I do remember you got me the best when I was sleeping on your mum's living room floor.
On your mum.
I was sleeping on your mum. Got me. April Fools. And I can't remember if you'd been trying to wake me up, because I'd stayed up later than everyone else, just like reading some Thundercats comic or something. Everyone else had sort of dropped off, but I'd stayed up most of the night and fell asleep at like 7 in the morning when it was pointless to fall asleep. And the next thing I knew, I was dreaming that I was on the Titanic and that I was drowning. And when I opened my eyes, it was because you were pouring a whole glass of water into my ear. And I was just like...
Wasn't there... Am I remembering this wrong? Wasn't there a time as well at Mum's... Wasn't there something to do with one of the cats?
Oh yeah, I launched one of your cats into your face. I went, "Tim!"
Right.
And then threw... I think it was possibly Sparky. Was it Sparky?
I think it was Sparky, yeah, the black cat.
He wasn't the friendliest cat. He was fine until you interfered with him, and then he'd be not in a wrong way.
Probably
You
the
know,
fact that you were calling her a him was probably what fucked her off the most.
oh whatever, cat's a cat. They're all the same. Yeah, I shouted your name, your eyes sprang open, and the next thing you saw was Thundercats are on the loose. Yeah, good
Yeah,
times.
that was fun.
I mean, from this, anyone listening to this probably thinks, well, they're friends, but I'm not sure why.
Because yeah, so far like the first like few reminiscences we've done have just been like, oh, we used to just bully each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you haven't even gotten on to like cigarette burns and stuff yet,
Mm.
where it started going a bit too far.
Oh, we will. I've still got my scar. Looking at it now.
Yeah, I think I've
Still
still
there.
got. Yeah, it's not much of anything, but it's still just the faintest of marks, the faintest of battle wounds. Yeah. So we'll continue with that next week, I guess.
We shall indeed.
Yeah. Do you want to have a moment? Have you got a moment for standout gaming? What's next on your list? Actually, don't let me hijack the show, Tim. Keep me in check.
I do actually have gaming moment on the list. This one was now. I know that you've played it, but you never got to this point. But and it's sort of like a combination of two games, really. Like I think I've said before, like I love films or games or anything that is sort of like not set in one place, but even if it's not set in one place, it just makes the place feel very rich, very tangible. So like Clerks, like Stephen King's The Mist, the episode of Family Guy where Stewie and Brian are like locked in the vault together. I like things, The Breakfast Club. I like things that are set in one place, but also can make an environment feel very deep and rich and just many layers.
Ironic, because we started the podcast with you saying how excited you are about the biggest game with the most sort of locations.
No, I'm just saying that I can really appreciate that if someone makes something that's just sort of like set in one area, or just puts a lot of time and effort into one particular environment, and can make it interesting and just make you feel like you notice new things every time you go through it.
Yeah.
So my bit for me was again two bits that sort of tie into this theme. Final Fantasy VII, which is obviously my favourite game of all time. When you get to the Golden Saucer, which is sort of like a theme park level, where you can go around and do like it's full of mini games. You can do snowboarding, like submarine battles, all this stuff. Like it's an absolutely incredible, awesome area. One of the big side quests in Final Fantasy is chocobo breeding.
Yeah.
And I think you've even been around way back when I was doing the chocobo breeding.
I've seen chocobo racing. I don't know if that was 7 though, or.
Well, yeah, that was part of it.
Okay.
Because you'd go out and in an almost sort of like Pokemon-esque type way, you'd go and catch a chocobo, and then you'd be able to transport that chocobo to the Golden Saucer where you bought like the stables for it to live, and you could then buy all these different sort of foods and stuff to boost the stats of the chocobo, and then you could race your chocobo in the chocobo races. And if I remember correctly, there were 2 courses, course A and B, and both courses were just, I mean, I'm sure going back and watching them now, I'd be a bit like, oh god, this looks shite. But at the time, I mean, the courses themselves don't adhere to any sort of like physics, or they're incredibly trippy, but there's just so much stuff going on in the background and stuff. Like there's you're running past like waterfalls, and like people in canoes are going over the top of the waterfalls and stuff, and it just felt that every time you played the races, and you had to race so many fucking times, but it never ever got boring, because it just felt that every time you were going through the race, you would just notice something new, something different, and it just felt like it almost felt like when we watched the Uncharted 4 teaser sort of gameplay demo from E3.
Oh yeah.
And Nate's driving the truck through that gorgeously rendered, incredible city. and we said like, oh, it's almost a shame you can't just get off the truck and just explore this city, 'cause it looks fucking stunning, it looks gorgeous. Same with the Chocobo racing. Like, you just wanted to get off the Chocobo and just explore this like mad, crazy, trippy sort of environment that you were racing through.
Yeah, I get that a lot with a lot of things. I'm like, I'd love to see more. Like, there's so many films and games where I'm like, oh, they touched upon this, and I'd love to see more of that, how that works, like as a social structure and stuff,
Mm.
particularly in sci-fi.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, that was that, and then there's another game. The next time that I really sort of think I experienced it, or the one that still sticks in my memory at least, uh, way back when I first got my PS2, I had a demo disc which had a demo for a game called Klonoa 2, Door to
Sounds
Door
like a sexually transmitted disease.
Door to Phantomile, and Klonoa, I recognise Klonoa. He's a very sort of like very Sonic looking sort of like character. He looks like he could just fit in a Sonic game, no problem.
Okay.
And I'd never played. I remember one of my friends from like back when I was like much younger had the first one on the PS1, which I have played now. You can download it on the PlayStation Store. But this demo had 2 levels on there, and the first level was your basic sort of like side-scrolling platform and stuff. Really good fun, but like quite dingy. And there's a lot of rain going on. It was set during a storm, and it was really good fun. It looked really sharp. It ran really nicely, and and that was fun. I remember playing that and thinking like, oh, that was all right. And then there's the other level, which I'm just trying to find the name of because I've completely forgotten it. No, I can't find it.
That's okay. You don't need to name it.
Yeah, the other level was you're on it's kind of still side-scrolling platforming, but it goes from sort of 2D to 2.5D quite a bit, and I think it's called Jungle Rapids or Jungle Rafting or something like that. And it's basically you're at as far as the story's concerned, you've got to like a theme park and you've gone to the jungle sort of like flume ride, and Klonoa gets out his little sort of like hoverboard surfboard, and then you just go through this like amazing level, which just has the best fucking music. And I mean, like, Alton Towers is one of my favourite theme parks, definitely my favourite theme park in England. And the thing that I love about Alton Towers is that it plays this phenomenal music, like, for each of the areas you're in, kind of like Disney and stuff like that. But the Alton Towers music just always felt a little bit more mystical and a bit more magical.
Was it like metal?
It wasn't metal. And yeah, it just had this amazing music that just sounded. And initially, I remember as a kid playing it, thinking like, oh, like this just sounds like Alton Towers music. And I was convinced for ages that they had just taken the music from like Alton Towers and put it in the game. And like, I remember scouring like YouTube and stuff, trying to find the Alton Towers music and like, flicking through it, just trying to find this fucking this music that was in the game, but it never was. So it's a ridiculous concept.
But that's fine. That's childlike whimsy for you.
But again, it was just I can't tell you the number of times that I played that demo. I mean, 'cause the game was so difficult to find, even at that point when it first came out. It was only a very small number of it produced, and I do have a copy of it now. But the number of times I played that demo until I managed to track down the game, and it's just, again, exactly like the Chocobo racing. You're whizzing through this gorgeous, vibrant, multicolored jungle, and it just feels like there are just, you just want to get off the board and just explore this incredibly bright, gorgeous world that's been created. Because it just, you every time, like I said, every time you're going through, it just feels so dense and just so thick and vibrant, and there's so many layers to it, and you just want to get off and actually explore it properly.
It is nice when that happens, when you really want to sort of see what's what.
Oh yeah, and it's just it was such an amazing, like, incredible, like, good level. And And yeah, so yeah, those two, like yeah, so yeah, sort of hard to sort of like categorize it. Guess saying like just you know those are two areas in games where I've just felt that the attention to detail just makes it, like I said, I had to replay the Chocobo racing so many times. I had to do the jungle side of level in Klonoa 2. I didn't have to do it, but that was the only sort of like thing on the demo.
Yeah.
So many times, but I just loved doing it. Like, they're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, that's what makes the game great, is the ability to sort of pull you in and immerse you in this world, and sort of make you ask questions like, "What's that?" That's, I mean, from my point of view, a game that does that for me is probably my favourite game of all time, Planescape Torment.
Yeah.
Where it's so good. I mean, it's not without its flaws for sure, but I love that game so much. But there are times that I find myself getting frustrated because you'll see, like, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a top-down adventure game, RPG, and you'll see these things in these like weird cities and stuff, like giant hulking brutes walking around, and you'll be like, "What the fuck is that?" You'll click on it, and it will just have this like random sort of like little bit of text scroll past saying like something that the creature's saying, like, "Oh, my head hurts today." And you're like, "No, I don't care. I want to know more about you. What are you? I'm not from this place." So it's one of those things where it is a frustrating thing, but it does make me. I mean, I'm sure as well they probably do explain it in all of the Dungeons and Dragons, Torment, Planescape.
Stuff.
Yeah, they've got tons of books out on it, but they're all about 80 quid, Tim, and I don't have that much money.
80 quid.
Yeah.
Are these like big like hardback sort of things, or are these like?
Yeah, well, it's like the player handbook, the
okay.
Dungeon Master handbook, but just specifically for Planescape, and then there's loads of campaign books and stuff. And you go on eBay and you're like, "Oh, maybe someone will be selling their old ones of those for a £5." No. No one is. So I guess they were pretty rare. I guess they were a pretty rare run.
Yeah.
Though I think that's true of all of every time a new Dungeons and Dragons volume comes out, the old one goes out of print and it just becomes like uber rare to find. They obviously don't print that many of them, except for the really basic ones like the basic player handbook and stuff. Any specialty sort of scenarios or whatnot, you're looking at getting them when they're first in print, or you'll pay top dollar for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that it's the sort of thing that does make you want to replay a game again and again just to see that little bit. Same with film trailers and stuff. Do you remember how many times you watched the trailer for The Dark Knight?
Dark Knight, yeah.
Just because there's so many little bits in that trailer where you're like, "That's this," and look at that shot, and
yeah, it was just. I mean, I think that was the very first time where I watched a trailer multiple times, and I think the only time that I've done that since really is probably Star Wars Episode 7.
Yeah.
I've definitely done it with games. On the same level. I think, I'd love to do I don't know how we do it, but I'd love to do, because I definitely have like my favorite games trailers of all time, mainly from the PS2 era. But like things like SSX Tricky and Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty trailers, I just think are absolutely incredible. And in the same way that the Dark Knight trailer is, like, you would just watch it again and again and again, and you just be trying to pick out all these tiny details, and like they're just like incredibly done, like very well edited, and just
leave you sort of wanting to see the film, not leaving. I mean, there are some trailers where you're like, "Well, I don't need to see the film now." Just describe the whole thing to me.
A lot of people have been saying, that I've been sort of hearing about Terminator Genesis. I mean, I think I've only seen the trailer for it once, and even then I was sort of only like half watching it. But a lot of people have been saying that the main sort of like twist in the film Terminator Genesis is done in the trailer.
Really?
So it's just like they expect it to have this huge impact in the film, and you're like, well, I sort of saw that in the trailer, so.
Yeah, that's always Lauren's biggest complaint about, because she loves sort of comedy films and really sort of the Adam Sandler style sort of slapstick comedy. but she won't watch the trailers for any of them. If she thinks to herself, "Oh, I want to watch an Adam Sandler film," she won't watch the trailer because it's always the funniest bits are always in the trailer.
Yeah.
So then she watches the film and sees that funny bit happen again and goes, "Well, yeah, I've heard the punchline.
Yeah.
I don't need
I
to
mean,
see
I
this."
did think that because Seth Rogen and James Franco's The Interview has
Oh,
finally
yeah.
been released, and obviously all the controversy around that, and the trailers, me and Vicky watched tons of the trailers for that because the trailers look fucking hilarious, and we've watched, and they released loads of trailers for it, loads of TV spots, loads of trailers, and we watched all of them. And I was looking at it today in Sainsbury's, thinking like, oh, should I pick this up? But then I was sort of like, oh, I'll probably wait for it to drop in price because I'm not sure how much I've seen of it just
Yeah.
through the trailers. I was like,
You've hit all
I'm
the
sure.
main story points and all the jokes.
Well, yeah, I was like, I'm sure it is very funny, but am I going to get home and just sort of like, are there only going to be a couple of new sort of bits in it?
Yeah, and then you're down 12 quid.
Yeah.
You're thinking, ugh. Yeah, I guess. My game moment that stands out for me, I know I've already said Planescape, but, you know, that was in response to yours, Tim. I've got my own. My own man. Is Resident Evil 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One of my favourite franchises.
Oh, yeah. I think I know.
You know where I'm going?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to come with me?
Because you caught me off guard saying 3 because I know that right in saying two's your favourite.
Oh, yeah.
Two, yeah. But I think I know what you're going to be saying with.
Yeah, it's the moment in 3. You first fight Nemesis, and you get that choice. You can either stand and fight or run away. You run away, and if you run away, he bangs on the police station doors for a bit, and then leaves you alone.
Not knocking on them, like banging some bird on there.
Yeah, he's actually banging
Jill,
on the door.
come out.
My big tentacle cock. And then you run around the police station, and it's all lovely. It's very nostalgic because you've played 2 at this point, presumably, and you're like, this is the same area, woo! And then he's in the police station, and you're like, that's fine. I'm a Resident Evil pro at this point. I've played the first one, I've played the second one. Third one's going to be no different. I'll just leg it away from him. You leg it away, go through a door, the music, the like terrifying Nemesis music stops, and then a few seconds after you go through the door, you walk down the corridor, then it all fucking starts up again. You hear that door go, you hear him go like, stars, and that music, that dun 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 music starts again, and you're just like, it's that moment of like, oh fuck, he can follow me.
Yeah.
There's no safe place other than a save room.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like the Resi 1 and 2, obviously different sort of settings, but very sort of similar in their moment-to-moment gameplay.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, if you ever wanted to escape zombies or anything, you just go through a door because zombies could never possibly smash open a door. But that was Capcom's way of keeping the areas, because it was all pre-rendered backgrounds and everything, and like you obviously had to load in the different areas and stuff, so you could use that to your advantage. And then yeah, like you're saying, some of the first times that you escape from Nemesis, who is just this behemoth who just relentlessly just sort of like chases you.
Yeah.
The moment he smashes through the area you left him in into the new area, and then when you go back to that area, like the door it's all smashed, it's all become part of the same room now. But that's the moment where you do realize you're never really safe in the game.
Yeah.
Right until the credits.
I think it's especially sort of powerful, the fact that it is the first time you experience it is in a place that you're used to.
Yeah.
From
yeah.
Resident Evil 2, where you're like, oh, I'll breeze through this, I know my way around perfectly, I'll soon figure out where the threats are going to be and stuff. And then it's just like they pull the rug from underneath you, and you're just like, oh my god, there's no stopping him. And that's when you turn off the game and say, well, you can't win this game. I mean, it's the fact as well that when he's coming for you, he can run, which isn't that common in Resident Evil games. Enemies,
yeah.
A lot of them do sort of, like even the lickers, even though they've got that quick tongue and stuff, they very slowly come at you most of the time. They sometimes will sort of do a little charge, And like the hunters sometimes will like come clumping after you, but they're still slow and stupid and turn round slowly. They're easily
Yeah.
avoided. This was like adding something where it's like, guess what? You're not safe. He's not going to be stunned by bullets or anything like that, and also he's quick.
Yeah. It really, because it's not really until 4 that you have the the sort of like enemies that are really running and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it does definitely pull the rug out from under your feet.
I mean,
in
even
in a brilliant
4,
way.
because it's so different, like the gameplay's so different, I always felt a lot safer in 4. There were moments like, I mean, that opening sequence where you're in the town, in that little village.
Ons forasteros!
Yeah, that's the one. And you're just sort of like desperately barricading yourself in somewhere because you're running out of ammo and they're still coming. There's moments like that, but the gameplay's so wildly different that you
Yeah.
sort of expect it to be different. With this, though, it was so similar, and then suddenly it was like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this massive change. But yeah, that was a moment in gaming where I was just like, I can't believe that they've done this to me, those fuckers. But I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy it still to this day.
Yes, it is very. I think out of the original 3, Nemesis has always been my least favorite. But
Yeah.
that's like saying,
It's like having a least favourite blowjob.
it's like having a least favorite Kardashian, isn't it? They're all cunts. They're all shit,
Yeah.
cunt human beings, but they're all so close to each other. It's hard to differentiate.
Yeah, for sure. Not a fan of the Kardashians, then?
I fucking hate them.
I'm not a fan. It's the idea of
No!
someone... No!
You!
Good old easygoing sort of liberal Matt who's always sort of... You like everything, don't you, Matt? Yeah. Yeah. What else have you got?
Just like the last sort of like bit that I've got on there was just I just started reading Mark Lawrence's Prince of Fools book.
Oh, okay.
Mark Lawrence, who's the author of the King of Thorns, Emperor of Thorns,
Prince of Thorns.
Prince of Thorns.
What's the new one called?
Prince of Fools.
What's the next one in the series going to be called?
The next
King
one's called
of
Liar's
Fools.
Key,
Oh, okay.
which came out recently. But because you did you read the original trilogy, or did you just read the first one or first 2?
I definitely read Prince of Thorns. I think I read King of Thorns.
Mm.
I'm not totally sure, actually. I've got it for sure because I really enjoyed Prince of Thorns. I thought it was.
That's the thing. Prince of Thorns I thought was fantastic. Like very sort of dark fantasy book, with obviously the very interesting, almost sort of science fictiony sort of twist. The fact that they find all this sort of like technology from our sort of Earth at the end of it, like it finds the nuclear missile and stuff.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, that's the whole end of the book.
Is it?
Yeah, he goes into the, I can't remember where it is, but he ends up in sort of like a science lab, and he's finding all these like compact discs and computer equipment that's all like completely busted and stuff, and he detonates a nuclear bomb.
In Prince of Thorns?
Yes.
I thought they have like a gladiator fight at the end of that.
No.
What
Have
book
you
am
read Prince of Thorns?
I have, yeah. I got a free copy of it, so maybe it was another book bound in the free copy.
Was it handwritten by someone else that just had the cover of Prince of Thorns on it?
I wrote it.
Yeah,
Oh,
the whole thing with it is that it.
Well, then what happens in King of Thorns?
Well, King of Thorns, he. See, this is the thing. Prince of Thorns, I can remember very vividly because I read it all in one day. Like, absolutely loved it. Like I said, especially when it got towards the end, when it was starting to put all this weird technology in there that was from you found out that, because if you look at the map, it's our Earth. After you realise this and you look at the map at the front, it's our Earth, but it's like the ice caps have melted, and so it's submerged. But I've got Prince of Fools in front of me, but like they make references because they've still got the Catholic faith in the books, because they have the popes and stuff like that, and yeah, you've got like you've got Normandy, which is where Normandy's meant to be. You've got like the sort of like British Isles bit, and you've got like, it's called the Drowned Isles, where Cornwall and all that is, and just below that is just an island called Brit. You've got Roma, which is where Rome and Italy would be, and then so you sort of realise that this sort of like apocalyptic, cataclysmic event has happened, and technology's been sort of like completely wiped out and forgotten.
Yeah.
And history's been sort of having to start going back through, sort of fantasy-ish sort of like, sort of times.
It may be based on, because there's a big sort of theory online, and there's been a theory for years that all of Tolkien's Middle-earth books are set in like the distant future.
Oh, okay.
And it's like everything stopped, and then as technology got better and better, we sort of destroyed ourselves, wiped ourselves out, and then these sort of dragons and shit started evolving and whatnot.
Yeah.
And man came back, sort of thing.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact details of the theory, but it's not official canon or anything. It's just people online being like, and then this could happen. It's sort of like they're saying like, well, what if this? And it's like, oh, what if? That's a good idea for a show.
Yeah. So yeah, like I loved the first book, and then read the second and third books, and really started to not care about what was going on. It got a bit. There were some very good bits in the second book, where Jorg was remembering stuff about his past and whatnot, but it never really went back to I really thought they were going to go into much more detail about what actually happened, like trying to speculate on what happened, why there are nuclear missiles hanging around that can just be activated and all this sort of stuff. But it never really massively went back into it. They still mentioned it, they still had bits of technology that they were using and stuff, but nothing more was ever really built on it.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, by the end of it, I think it just got a little bit convoluted with the characters and what was going on. So sort of like, it was by no means terrible, but I sort of like had lost interest by the end of the third book.
So the obvious thing to do is to read his next book.
Well, it's completely different. It's still set during the same time period and stuff, but it's completely different characters. And that's the thing. All of these books are all critically acclaimed and stuff. And I do enjoy his writing style. I was just quite interested to see how it would be with a new protagonist, new characters, new background, new story, stuff like that. And they're still mentioning like because they call what we are now, they refer to this civilization as the Builders, and they still sort of like have little bits of builder technology here and there, like lamps and stuff.
None of this rings a bell.
Sorry?
None of this rings a bell. Do you know what I mean? This is worrying though, because I remember he's in with a group of thieves, isn't he, in the first one?
Well, they're
sort of cutthroats.
Yeah.
Like
they rape and pillage.
Yeah, rough and tough lads. And I remember I loved the different characters within his group. I remember really thinking these are really sort of well thought out characters, and a lot of them are sort of cliches, but they work.
Yeah.
I remember that, and I remember there's one point where he's reading a book and he rests it on a prostitute's ass while he's trying to read it.
You could relate to that.
That's just another Saturday night. But no, I don't remember anything about technology.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
dear.
was the whole sort of like.
This was at a time though. I read it when I just started working at
I just started heroin. Not all of it was going in.
But I was reading sort of like 2 or 3 books a week. It was ridiculous how much I was getting through, just because I'd blagged this job. I've always loved books, but not as much as I'd made out in this interview.
Yeah.
So I was suddenly like, oh, they expect me to write reviews and stuff. I'd better start reading. I can't just write reviews of like, oh, The Colour of Magic is Terry Pratchett's first book from the 80s. Have you heard of it? Oh, you have? Oh, okay. Better do some new stuff. So yeah, some of it does get a bit muddy. That might be why.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. 100 and something pages in.
Okay.
Started yesterday, and yes, it's very good so far. So hopefully it will sort of like keep the pace a little bit better than the sort of like final volume of Prince of Thorns did.
Yeah, yeah. It is a shame when particularly when it's a series of books that you love, start to get weaker and weaker as you go along, and you're just like, wow, you should have kept this as a standalone novel, or either that or kept the writing style up and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully this going to be a new trilogy then?
Yeah, so he's done the first one, Prince of Fools. Second volume, which came out last week, is called The Liar's Key, and then the third volume is out, I imagine, next year.
Oh, that's good. We did a bit of book talk.
We did a bit of book talk.
How literary. From books to films. Do you know what film I watched for the first time recently?
Yes.
Go on then. Go on then, smart guy. Come on.
Oh.
No, I watched. Sin City.
Sin City 2.
Yeah, good guess. I gave you a big clue there. Yeah.
It was it.
Yeah, it was Sin City 2.
We watched that the other day.
Did you? Because it's on Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think?
I thought it was alright.
That's what I thought.
It was by no means a bad film. I think it definitely lacked the sort of visceral punch that the first film had.
Yeah, there was something very off about it, wasn't there?
And there was something that really didn't make sense.
Well, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, something that there's a moment in that film that took me so far out of the story, and I just thought, it's a makeup issue. Is that what you're thinking?
No.
No? What were you thinking?
Well, obviously, I've read the original Frank Miller graphic novels.
Yep.
Have you read them?
I read a couple of them.
Okay.
Again, so they're expensive, so I won't be reading them all.
So yeah, in the very first one, which is what the first part of Sin City is based on, Marv, played by Mickey Rourke, ends up dying.
Yeah.
But he still appears in a couple of the later graphic novels, because the later graphic novels, a couple of them are prequels to that story. The second part of Sin City, when the trailers first came out and Marv was in it, everyone was just like, what's he doing back in? He's dead. And I was like, well, no, because in the graphic novels, he appears in the later volumes in the prequel stories, talking about how Clive Owen's character, because in the film he talks about having a new face, like in the comic as well.
Yeah.
Because you then find out his backstory about how he had to have this plastic surgery and stuff. So Marv appears throughout these older stories. And so the film started, and I was watching the film, and I was like, yeah, Marv's here, the whole gang's here, great stuff. And then I noticed that Nancy was, having these like hallucinations of Bruce Willis. Hartigan.
Yeah.
And I was like, so hang on, this is set directly after the first film then?
Yeah. Some of it is.
But Marv teams up with Nancy to go and get revenge.
Yeah, that bit is set after Marv has supposedly died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're just, no, he's not dead. No, he's not dead.
They didn't even retcon it. They didn't even say like, and then someone found him and managed to bring him back or something. They're just like, just forget that bit happened. He didn't die.
So I was really trying to wrap my head around a little bit, just sort of like, well, hang on. Like, where exactly are we?
Yeah. Because I mean, it's a difficult film to follow anyway, because it is sort of segmented, and it all takes place it's not like one story leads on to another. They're like happening at different times.
But this is the thing, that the film follows the first film, followed the comics so closely. The first like 2.5 volumes or whatever it was, followed them panel for panel, and it was perfect for it. It was amazing for it. And I just think if they'd have just carried on doing that, it wouldn't have been, if I could read the comics and understand that, things were in the past or things were in the future and stuff, I could watch a film and understand it. But it was on their part for just bringing back a character for a part of the film that's set after he's died and not explaining it.
Yeah. Almost as if they were like, well, Mickey Rourke as that character brought in an audience, so we can't not have him in the whole thing, because
Yeah,
he'd become like the main thread, wasn't he, throughout it all? He seemed to be in every story.
yeah. But it was just like, well, you can have. I'm not saying don't have Mickey Rourke in it, because you can have him in it because he appears later in the comics.
Of course.
But don't just bring him back without, don't bring him back into a story that he doesn't belong in. And
Yeah.
if you are going to do that, explain why he's not dead. Don't just do it.
Give us a clue.
Be the equivalent of just Obi-Wan Kenobi just coming back flesh and bone in Empire Strikes Back, and it's like, no, nothing, not going to say no. He's fine. Survived getting cut into a ghost.
Just Jedi and shit. That's all you need to know. So Marv was a Jedi the whole time. For me,
yeah, I thought it was all right.
It was fine. For me, it didn't look as good as the first one. I didn't think it was quite as cool or as punchy with the dialogue and the voiceovers and whatnot. I did struggle a little bit because it was a little while since I'd seen the first one.
Yeah.
And I considered briefly I should probably watch the first one because it's almost like it is a direct continuation from the first one. But I was like, oh no, I know the first one well enough. I've seen it recently enough. Turns out I hadn't really. I did struggle a little bit with that. The thing that really, really blew my mind was Josh Brolin dressed up as Clive Owen. That was the point where I was like, sorry, did they not have a makeup artist for this part? What happened here? You've gone quiet. What's happened?
Well, he wasn't.
He was.
Well, I know that he came back with the sort of plastic surgery thing.
Yeah.
But did he keep? He didn't keep that to the end of the film, though, did he?
What? Yeah. What? What's happening? No, he comes back.
Yeah, when he's in the car and he's, what's the name picks him up.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson picks him up and they go to the house because he's been hired to. He's been hired to protect. What's her name? Eva Green's character or something.
Yeah.
But they don't realise that it's the guy that he's
her ex. Yeah.
But he turns up and he looks like he's been through a meat grinder. Like you can tell it's Josh Brolin, but they've like put a fake chin on him, like a Bruce Campbell chin, and given him these sort of like this little greasy fringe. And he looks like a burn victim rather than a guy who's had like facial surgery. And just looking at an image of him next to an image of Clive Owen, because apparently.
But no, this was the thing, because doesn't he get killed?
No, because this story's the Dame to Kill For story set before the Clive Owen story in the second one. In the first one. Oh my god, it's confusing.
Because this is the thing. This is the fucking thing. He dies, but this stuff happening is like a prequel to the first film.
I don't think he does die, does he?
I think he gets. I think he does.
I can't remember.
There was something that happened, and I was just like, because I was thinking, oh, are they actually going to get Clive Owen in at some point?
They wanted to apparently, because I looked it up afterwards, and apparently he was signed on to do it, but then he had a scheduling conflict or something. So they thought, rather than getting someone who looks like Clive Owen, we'll just make up Josh Brolin to look like some sort of like walking, staggering corpse version of Clive Owen.
Yeah, like, because I mean, there a lot of sort of plot holes within the film were making it very difficult to follow what was going on.
Yeah, it dragged me out of the story a few times. I was disappointed because I really liked the first one.
Yeah, the first one was absolutely phenomenal film, like absolutely incredible film.
And it felt like they could have just carried on, like done it exactly the same as the first one. I mean, I know there were certain things they couldn't avoid, like Brittany Murphy had died in real life, and what's his name, Green Mile. What's his name? Michael Douglas? Not Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas from the Green Mile. Michael Clark Duncan.
Yes.
He'd died in real
Yeah,
life,
yeah, yeah.
so they had to recast him. But that was fine. That worked. But I don't know. It's just there were some choices made that were a bit odd. There were parts of the story that I was like, wow, they could have cut some air out of this and made it a lot more punchy and a bit more fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's a
I
shame.
mean, yeah, it just wasn't. Didn't have that sort of magic. I mean, I enjoyed Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character.
Yeah, he was cool. He's always cool though, in everything he does.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed. Yeah, I enjoyed the stories, the concept of the stories. I enjoyed, but I just think the execution was just lacking.
Yeah, it was everything was just slightly off, slightly like just missing that
Yeah.
little spark of magic that the first one had.
Yeah, like by no means was it a bad film, but
No.
it was barely a good film. Like, it was all right. It was an all right film.
I mean, you can't help but compare it to the first one.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, and that just stands head and shoulders above it. But then I'd rather watch that than fucking Magic Mike or something. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else on your list, or we are?
That is all.
Over an hour and a half.
That is all on my list.
Lovely. Shall we wrap it?
If you want to take us out.
Yeah. Twitter @FishMonkeyWorld. Come and have a chat. Have a follow. Email matt@fishmonkeyproductions.com or tim@fishmonkeyproductions.com, and come and watch some of our stuff on www.fishmonkeyproductions.com. Bridge Burner Gaming on Facebook or Fish Monkey Productions on Facebook. I mean, it's so easy. I'm annoyed.
What's so easy?
To find us. We're
Yeah.
everywhere, Tim.
We are.
I mean, the sort of pecking order is people search for like the word fail on the internet the most, and then they search for Fish Monkey Productions surely next, you'd think. Maybe not. Yeah, so that's where you can find us, and come and watch our What If series, and the Fallout thing that I'm doing is.
And the trolley comic.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to last. I think I've already binned the X-Men retrospective thing. I think I'm going to try something else with X-Men. Cause,
Okay.
I watched one back and I was like, this is fucking boring. And I'm interested in X-Men, and it's me talking. But yeah. Cool. So
yeah, that's it. So that's the end of episode 5. So that is goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And we shall see all of your pretty faces and smell your pretty ears
Well.
next next week.
Yeah. Alright then. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Just tap on the table.
What?
Did you just tap on the table?
Yeah, why not?